We'll kick things off at the brand new Canadian Canoe Museum here in the city of Peterborough. Ashburnham Drive, make sure you come and check it out, especially the outside. That's when we decided to start our tour with Carolyn Hislop. And Carolyn, before we get into all this, how long have you been involved with the Canadian Canoe Museum? It seems like it's been a minute.
It's been a bit more than a minute.
I almost made a bit of a snafu there by making a suggestion, but I'll let you tell me.
I have been involved with the museum for 23 years,
Wow.
believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started with our education programs at the museum and have moved into this role as executive director.
So talk about, obviously there's a big road to get to where we are today, and to look at this beautiful landscape. I mean, this really sort of turns Little Lake into something that it never was before.
This is a transformational project for the city of Peterborough, for Little Lake and the Trent Severn Waterway to have the Canadian Canoe Museum here in Peterborough on the water. But then we're also standing on some of the most exceptional docking and all of the on-water programming that we're going to be able to do at the museum it's a game changer.
It certainly is. Obviously Monaghan Road is a nice view too, but to be able to walk out and be able to have a view and be able to actually boat up and be able to come and visit the museum as well. Talk about the importance of that design of this new museum.
Well, we wanted people to be able to arrive at the museum in multiple modes of transportation. So you can drive, come in a bus, you can arrive by bike, but most importantly, as a canoe museum, we want you to arrive by canoe or by kayak. And so these docks are set up that you can actually arrive by canoe and kayak. Those that have any accessibility needs, we've designed the whole docking and boardwalk so that it's completely accessible, and we've got an adaptive canoe and kayak launch just behind you.
So talk about that, and how important was that to include in part of the infrastructure?
Fundamental. One of the core values of the project is that this whole place needs to be accessible to everybody that comes through.
So talk about the dock in itself. I mean, obviously we've got different levels of the dock here to allow for different modes of transportation, as you allude to. I mean, I don't know if you want me pulling up my jet ski, if I had a jet ski, by the way. I don't, but someone wants to buy me one. But ultimately, you're looking for those, those kayakers, those canoeists to just pop on by, right?
Absolutely, yep. The mooring for motorboats, anything powered, is over at either you can be at the docks on Little Lake or at the opening of the mouth of the Trent Severn Waterway. These docks are for paddled watercraft, so you're coming in your canoe, kayak, your stand-up paddleboard, you arrive and you can go up to the Canoe Museum. They're actually going to be a major component of our education and school programming. We're going to run Voyageur canoe tours, so these big boats, these big canoes that are on the dock are going to be set up so you can go out on a guided tour with the Canoe Museum staff. Our summer camps are going to be based out of here as well. So these are going to be highly used by Canoe Museum folks on a regular basis.
So was that instrumental as part of the planning process? Because obviously there's a lot of young people that may have not ever stepped foot in a canoe, and this is a great opportunity to maybe learn how to paddle, canoe. I'll get the terminology down by the end of the show, I promise. To be able to put a paddle in the water and move.
That's right. Put paddle in the water and move, and really find your own connection. So find your own connection to the natural world here, to get out and be with a bigger community, so community paddling days. It's been a really important part of this project, is to be on the water so people can have an experience inside the museum, and ideally they'll be left inspired by the exhibition and the collection inside, and they want to get into a canoe or a kayak here down on the docks and go and find their own adventure.
And I love that it's so close to, as you mentioned, the mouth towards the Trent Severn Waterway, and Beavermead Beach is right there as well. So accessible on either different direction.
This is such a great spot for the Canoe Museum. We couldn't have asked for a better location because you do have recreation all around us. It's a naturalized environment with the Trans-Canada Trail running right through the property. There's so much visibility, there's so many people. There's somebody biking right now. People are using this side of the lake for this kind of active sort of recreational environment, and it's perfect for our visitors.
Finally, I know what I said when I came out here and saw the scape. What have people been saying when they walk out those back doors and see what's out here?
They're shocked. They're astounded by how beautiful it is. How thoughtful it also is in terms of the planning and the execution, materials. Like it's a game changer.
A little more going on behind us. I know that's still being worked on right now, but what are we hoping for the outside of the museum to look like as you lead down to these docks?
Well, so again, we're trying to build in people's connections to the natural world as much as possible. So you're going to see lots of naturalized landscape, accessible pathways through that naturalized landscape. More plantings are going to be going in over the course of the next couple of weeks. We've got to finish up a really beautiful gathering circle that's going in on the southeast side of the building, and that's just going to bring in everything that we're thinking about for the full visitor experience on the campus and inside.
Fantastic. It's beautiful outside. I want to go see what it looks like on the inside. We're going to go head inside and see what the collection looks like. Some collection parts we have never seen before because they've been in storage. They're out in display right now. Let's go inside and have a look. So first of all, let's talk about where we are right now.
Okay, well, we're right now in the collection hall. This is the center of the entire Canadian Canoe Museum. This is a room that contains about 550 canoes once we fully moved in. There's just a few left coming across. And this room inspires everything that the museum does. The exhibits hall upstairs, the on-water programming, everything about the museum sort of draws its energy out of this space. This is a commitment also that we have made to create a new museum that has the entire collection under one roof.
Yes.
You're familiar with our old museum on Monaghan in a facility that used to be an outboard motor factory. Most of the collection was stored in a warehouse across the parking lot that was not generally open to the public. And we've always wanted to provide that as an experience to our guests. And so here it is. We're standing in this space. We'll be giving guided tours in this room, a regular program there, and we'll be doing much larger programs as well in this space. And then people who have come to visit canoes or kayaks they've donated, or canoes or kayaks from their community, they'll be able to come here and spend time with them. To my left is a small Mi'kmaq birch bark canoe that we brought out especially for a family who's are probably related to the builders who made this canoe almost 100 years ago, who asked especially for a visit to spend some time with it and to look at its construction.
That's fantastic. How long have you been involved with the museum for?
26 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
A little bit of time, yeah.
So
a few of us have given a lot of time to this place. Yeah.
So obviously to see this come to fruition and be able to bring a lot more of these vessels out into the public eye is got to be very heartwarming for you.
It's incredible. This is a dream come true. The museum's been on a journey to make itself, to increase accessibility to everything that it does. So I know the docks are fully accessible. We've brought accessibility right to the water's edge. Well, the same thing with the canoes and kayaks that we care for. We want the public to be able to see them, to appreciate them, to know that they're here, and then also to get guided tours into this space.
So as you said, there was one canoe that was brought down to be viewed. I mean, how many canoes do we have in here, and how does it work if someone wants to view a vessel that they've maybe donated or know someone that donated?
Right. Well, that would be, preferably that would be with advance warning, and we can set that up because it's a bit of a process for us. We have a special forklift that this whole room was designed around. Part of the commitment of getting everything under one roof was that we used a racking system that we developed here with these individual canoe cradles. We've been working with a local steel company, this is City Welding, who have done an outstanding job giving us a final product that is modular, it's collapsible, it provides all of the support each canoe may need for the next 50 years if it stays on storage that long. But we can also pick it up with a forklift, bring it down and make it accessible so that we're not handling the canoe itself, but we're lifting it by the steel framework that cares for it.
Especially as you mentioned, a birch bark canoe, as old as it is, I'm sure it's very fine, very fragile.
Oh, very fragile indeed, yes. Yeah. Some of these canoes are extremely fragile, and some of them are as rugged as they were when they were bashing down rivers. But no, they all get the same treatment here. We're standing also next to some Olympic flatwater racing canoes that were used at the Olympics by Canadian athletes. And all of the canoes in this hall are grouped by their construction. So we can expect in this aisle that we'll see a lot of carbon fiber, Kevlar, fiberglass hulls, and so on. And then going on, there will be cedar canvas, cedar strip, birch bark, the logic, just helps us keep track of everything where it is. And certainly makes it a richer tour for our tour guide.
How many of these canoes were tucked away in storage that are now available to be viewed?
Well, if they visited us before we closed down for the move across, they would have seen probably 115 on exhibit in the old museum. And that would mean that the remainder, and we're talking, do the quick math, about 560 were in storage.
Okay.
We now have 115 again in the new exhibit space. We've more or less repeated the same square footage there to here for exhibits. So about 115, but a lot of new canoes on exhibit here that you've never seen before, and another 550 in storage here. But this is part of the visitor's experience. So this is like the 7th exhibit at the new museum, where we can bring people in and they can have the full experience.
Some were out in the open, some are still wrapped in plastic. Explain that.
Yeah, the plastic bags was an essential condition for us to bring the watercraft over for a number of reasons. One, they were coming from an old warehouse. We could not bring any unwanted critters into this new building, pests or otherwise, so each canoe or kayak had been cleaned and condition reported, cataloged, photographed, all of that process that we do, and brought here in a sealed bag until the humidity was brought up to the standards that we need in this facility, and the dust was removed, and now we have a big job ahead of us to unwrap the canoes. So you'll see as you come, if you visit us today or tomorrow, you'll see quite a few of them have been unwrapped, the plastic bags removed, and it takes a while to do that, but we'll be doing that throughout the summer.
I'm just glad I'm not the one that has to go around with a feather duster to clean these vessels off. I'm ready to see the exhibits area. Can we go take a look?
Let's head on up.
All right, Jeremy, we've made the quick adjustment upstairs, the exhibits area, and I mean, this place is so spacious, and yet there's so much here. Talk about this.
Well, this is really exciting. This is the exhibition hall. We have 6 long-running exhibits now open to the public. Each of the exhibits, we take a big idea and we explore that, bringing in experts from across the country, coast to coast to coast, and around the world to weigh in on the topic. And I think one of the really amazing things about following the canoe, where it leads, is you realize that it's sort of slippery. You think you understand it from one perspective, and you realize somebody else has a very different perspective on the same thing. And that really makes fertile content then for exhibits.
Let's talk about what we're seeing behind us. I mean, we talked about the number of boats that are downstairs and in the display area, but when you come up here to the exhibits area, there's a large quantity of boats hanging from the ceiling and hanging off the walls as well.
Well, we're right now in Canoes from Around the World section of the All My Relations exhibit. So behind me are a number of canoes here that have never been on exhibit before. Overhead is a Gogodala canoe from Papua New Guinea, and then a black dugout or a plank canoe from the Solomon Islands, and a beautiful outrigger canoe from Western Samoa with a really great story tied to Canadian Navy. So there's just, this place is rich. We call this the Gathering Hall of Stories because it's not so much about the objects themselves. You might, if you've never seen the Canoe Museum, you might just expect dusty old boats on racks, and that's really not a great way to learn. We find it the incredible opportunities then to bring the storytellers together and share what they have. And I'll tell you, just a few nights ago, all of the people who contributed to these exhibits, from the Arctic, from Baffin Island, from Nova Scotia, from the West Coast and points in between, they all joined us for a sneak preview night to see their content in these new exhibits in location next to boats that they have stories to share. And it was just a magical night. And then we opened it.
It seems like there's a really good history lesson to be learned by walking through this exhibits area, learning about where we've come from to where we are right now when it comes to these vessels.
Very much so, and we are on Treaty 20 territories, and so we've also brought Anishinaabemo in, the language of the Anishinaabe people, here and at the local dialect. So we've been working with language speakers to infuse as much language as we can in 3 languages, English, French, and Anishinaabemo. And in this space. This is all new experience for the people. And I would also add that none of the exhibits that are on display here now are exhibits from the previous museum. This is a whole new suite of exhibits, new content, new stories being told.
So you're seeing everything for the first time all over again.
You and me both.
There
yes.
we go.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, again, just give me a walkthrough of what the rest of this exhibit area looks like. What can people find? Obviously, as you talk about the international space here, what else is behind these crooks and crannies?
Sure. Well, we're in an exhibit that really explores the global families of the canoe and kayak, and this might be kayaks from Greenland to Alaska to canoes of the South Pacific and throughout Africa, as well as most of the continent, North America. We have an exhibit called Pushing the Limits, where we explore through paddling. People have they found their own limits and pushed through and found their full potential. So there's a lot of competitive sport history. There's a lot of incredible long-distance odyssey canoe trips, say from Winnipeg to Brazil, longest canoe trips on record. That's Pushing the Limits. We have a great new exhibit about how it's made, different canoe and kayak building traditions, and the builders are talking to you in their own story. Some great cameos in that space. We have an exhibit that looks at the sort of the last 4 centuries of history between Europeans and Indigenous peoples here in Canada and the fur trade era. And reconciliation is also a strong feature there, and the work that's being undertaken right now. So honestly, we can keep going on, but people just have to come here and start exploring it for themselves.
Really encourage you to come down and check this place out. It is fantastic. It's a beautiful space. And again, this could not happen if it wasn't for the donors, right?
That's right. This is an incredible project, and our support for the exhibits has come from coast to coast to coast. But the whole project here that's now open to the public has been supported by donors from coast to coast to coast.
Fantastic. How can people find you? How can people get in? Do they just show up, or?
Great way to prepare for your visit to the museum is visit us online. All the tools are there to plan your visit. You get an orientation, because not only are you going to be exploring the exhibits as we are now, but you're also heading out to the docks where the canoe programs are offered there. We'll get you out in the big Voyager canoes if you've never traveled by that, or we'll get you in small canoes. There's great food here. Take a program. We have workshops as well. There's camps. There's a whole range of offerings. So that's a great way to just do some research on us first, plan your visit, and then come on down and we'll show you around.
Jeremy and Carolyn as well appreciate their time here today, and I can't strongly encourage you enough to come down and check things out here at the new Canadian Canoe Museum here in Peterborough.